We're being told we must get ready for war with China by the year 2027. But here's the strange part. China isn't threatening anyone outside its borders. Asterisk, not a soul in fact. China, throughout its long and documented history over 2,000 years, since 221 BC has never once launched a military invasion of a foreign country overseas. Meanwhile, the United States, we've barely had a moment of peace. War has become our default setting. We're playing with fire, and if a nuclear-armed nation ever retaliates, we could face catastrophic consequences. I've visited China at least 100 times. I've seen it up close. There's absolutely no fundamental conflict between the US and China. They're not out to destroy us. And frankly, they couldn't if they tried, not even in a million years. A direct war would be mutually devastating. Let me repeat it. China has never invaded a country overseas in 2,245 years. Did they attack Japan? Never. Korea? Not once. Vietnam? Yes, but only for a short span, 17 years, from 1420 to 1436, in a single month in 1979. That's the total sum in more than 2 millennia. In America, we've practically been at war non-stop. And where did we learn that pattern? From our colonial predecessors. The British Empire was perhaps the most militarized power in modern history. Sadly, our current leaders, regardless of which political party they're from, follow the same playbook. Starmer is no different than Boris Johnson. Their only language is military. What's the first move Starmer made as Prime Minister? He flew straight to Kyiv to pledge indefinite American support against Russia. Not British support, because let's be honest, Britain barely has independent military influence. He was simply echoing American commitments. Now we're being fed this tired narrative of democracy versus dictatorship. But come on, that's a simplification, and not even a useful one. According to the UN Charter, every nation is entitled to choose its own system of governance. China has had a centralized administrative system for over 2,200 years. Sixth Emperor Qin Shi Huang unified the state. Sure, there have been periods of fragmentation, but from the Qin to the Han, Tang, Song, Ming, Qing, and now the PRC, the structure has remained remarkably consistent. It's an enduring bureaucracy that governs nearly the same geographic region even today, and for the most part, it has worked. China has maintained internal stability better than most countries over centuries. Its few historical wars were almost exclusively responses to nomadic threats from the north, like the Mongol invasions, or the actions of a rogue Japanese shogun in the 1590s who marched as far as Korea before being killed. Apart from these, China has focused on statecraft and internal order. That was the case until 1839, when Britain decided it was a good idea to go to war with China to force opium sales. That marked the start of China's modern foreign conflict. Not initiated by them, but imposed from the outside. So no, I don't buy this fear-mongering about China being a global aggressor. Even if it were partly true, responding with military escalation would still be legal under international law and strategically reckless. Just look at our recent history. The US funneled hundreds of billions into Afghanistan over 2 decades to end up right back where we started, with the Taliban back in power. That's what Washington calls spreading democracy. But the reality is, US foreign policy has never really been about democracy. It's about power and control. If a government doesn't align with our interests, whether it's democratic or not, work to remove it. We don't hesitate to topple elected governments that resist American influence. Take Iran, for example. In 1953, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh led a democratic government. That didn't stop the US from orchestrating a coup that installed a brutal police state. That decision poisoned US-Iran relations for decades. So let's stop pretending. This is about defending democracy. It's not. It's a strategic game, a dangerous and secretive one, primarily run by the CIA. And the CIA, it's arguably the most powerful institution in the United States. Why? Because it operates in total secrecy and is accountable to no one. The last time Congress truly reviewed the CIA's actions was in 1975, the Church Committee nearly half a century ago, and what have we learned since? Former CIA Director Mike Pompeo once proudly told students in Texas that at the CIA, they lie, cheat, and steal. He wasn't joking. That's the methodology. And it's deeply alarming. This is the world we're building, Ghani. We're secret agencies, with no oversight shape foreign policy through manipulation and subversion. And no, China isn't about to transform the United States into a dictatorship. If America falls into authoritarianism or simply becomes a plutocracy ruled by money and defense contractors, it won't be China's doing. It'll come from within. We're the ones escalating. And we need to stop meddling in the Taiwan issue. That's not our jurisdiction. Taiwan is recognized by both the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China as part of one China. And when we established formal diplomatic ties with Beijing, we agreed to this framework over and over again in official communiques. So what are we doing? Sending weapons to Taiwan unilaterally. Why are high-ranking U.S. officials visiting the island and provoking tension? This is a disaster in the making. In fact, just a few weeks ago, the U.S. Navy released a new strategic plan. It doesn't say a war with China will happen, but it clearly states we must be prepared for one by 2027. This isn't a simulation. They're playing with the future, your future. It's hard to believe this is the road we're on. Because, again, China isn't threatening anyone beyond its own shore, isn't it, in the South China Sea? Not anywhere. Yes, they've built some defensive infrastructure on disputed reefs and islands. But if you read U.S. military policy, the strategy is to choke China's sea lanes. China isn't fighting over rocks, it's trying to keep vital trade routes open. That's it. It's basic self-preservation. What we need to do is stay out of each other's way, to avoid an unnecessary and potentially apocalyptic confrontation. It's not that complicated. Here's where it gets especially urgent. If you study game theories, the Hawk-Dove model, also known as the game of chicken it, offers a stark lesson. The model suggests that if one side threatens nuclear war and the other backs down, the aggressor gets its way. But if both sides refuse to back down, the outcome is total destruction. So what's the rational move? If you assign -infinity to the Hawk versus Sachs scenario, meaning nuclear and escalation, the only sane strategy is for both sides to never play Hawk, not even a little. Because any finite chance multiplied by -infinity is still -infinity. That's the logic. Don't play nuclear chicken, ever.